Hi, my name's Adam Lavell and I'm going to be editing this particular photo. This image is of Venora of Dreamland Designs. She's an amazing creator that creates some awesome furniture and a massive contributor towards Adam's Photo Challenge prizes. I took this picture on a green screen, and first thing I need to do is remove all the green. So using the background eraser tool, I'm going to select the green and just go over with a fairly big brush. Make sure that I capture all of it, but clearly I made a mistake, so I want to try again and go over the entire green areas and remove it completely. I tend to go over it just in case if I missed any particular areas, and now what I'm going to do is create another layer, because sometimes depending on the hair there is a some green that stays in the hair, but you can't see it until you put like a dark background. So that's what I've just done there now, and using a clipping mask on the original image, I've selected blending options hue, and using a paintbrush and a colour that's fairly similar to the hair colour, I'm going over all those green areas there. So as you can see, it's kind of starting to look more like the original hair colour. So I'm happy with that. I've created a couple of copies just so that, because some of the hair was a bit light, so just by creating a couple of copies and then merging them down like layer on top of layer, just makes the light areas where there's less hair a bit more thicker. Now I'm going to be working on the dodge and burn of the on the hair. So using the burn tool, there's areas of the hair that are darker, so I'm going to go over those areas. As you can see, the difference. The reason why I do this is because I want to create a bit more of a 3D look, to make it a bit more realistic looking, so it's not such a flat image. So I'm going to make sure that I follow the flow of the hair, and just using the burn tool just go over, and I'm using the mid-tones and not such a high exposure. I mean, the higher you go, the darker it becomes. You don't really want to go too dark at this point, because you don't want to change the colour of the hair. Just add a bit more of depth to it. So I'm going to go through the entire hair. I've actually sped up the video, this actual edit, because the actual time I did spend on this particular edit was 2 hours and 13 minutes. So there's no way I wanted to put you through 2 hours of 13 minutes. So I've sped it up. So I don't usually work this fast, but now you can see I'm working over the using the dodge tool. I'm working the lighter areas. Using the Alt key, I can change between the dodge and the burn tool, so I keep checking the progress against the original image, or the last image, and you can see the difference already with the slight touches that I'm making on the hair. I'm going to keep doing this until I'm completely happy. It's important that you always make a copy of the work so that you can compare it to. Zoom in. I do tend to spend quite a lot of time doing this particular part. I've seen a few videos where some more experienced people in Photoshop, they can literally take such a short time doing this, but I tend to spend a bit of time doing this. Now I'm going to be working on using dodge and burn tool on the actual face itself, just creating that 3D look. So first I'll just work on the forehead and the nose, the upper cheeks and the chin. Here I'm working in the eyes, so the whites of the eyes I make lighter, and the actual darks I'm making darker, and you can kind of see the difference almost immediately, and I kind of want to make it pop out a bit. constantly, just checking the the progress that I'm making compared to the last image. Here you can see I'm working all the darker areas, so work the lips, the nose, and just see the the progress. Now I'm going to be working on the nose itself, just making areas lighter, and often it's trial and error, what works, and I'll often make mistakes, but the great thing about Photoshop is if you do, you can just go back a few steps and try again. So I'm going to try and figure it out until I'm happy with it. I mean, I tend to do this a lot, when it comes to my images. There's certain things that I think I'm happy with it, but I'm not, and it's just a little thing. So I'll just keep going back. So here I'm working the lips. The lips, which are going to be like in a more shaded area, are darken, and the parts which are going to be more prominent, the ones that are going to be more exposed, and I'll make a bit lighter. See here, like I've created a bit of a dark smudge, so that I wanted to clear that. Wasn't too happy with that, but now you can see it looks pretty cool. So now I'm going to go and just work on the eyebrows, just making it darker. Okay, so here with the various different heads and skins, there's sometimes a seam that appears. So what I want to do is try and make it more seamless. So using the patch tool, just circle around those areas where there is, and just grab an area, and you can see that it kind of like makes those seams go and a bit more. You can see the tones kind of flow a bit more freely, a bit more naturally. Now I'm going to work on just the throat and the collarbone, using the dodge and burn tool again, just again to make it a bit more realistic looking. Okay, now I'm going to work on creating a shadow just underneath the chin, using the polygonal lasso tool, just noticing that it's not really smooth, so I'm going to use the liquify tool, and then just zoom on that chin area, and there's just an area which was just kind of not like smooth like. I know it's very minimal, but again with my OCD, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So now that I'm happy with that, using the lasso tool, the polygonal one, I go around and just follow the line of the chin, making sure that it's just on the line of the chin, and then select the actual area. I realised here that I'd gone too far, so I'm going back on myself rather than selecting again, and then just making sure that I just select just the neck area only and nothing else. Okay, so now using the paintbrush, I lower the opacity and use a black, and then just go over using a soft brush, and then once I'm happy with that, use the eraser tool again using the soft brush at 100% opacity, and then I just go around just erasing the paintbrush that I just put down, and you can see straight away it's creating a bit of a shadow look, with a few little tweaks here and there just to make it a bit more realistic and just have it a bit more of a flow. I'm happy with how that's come out. So again, just using the polygonal tool, and then the paintbrush with a low opacity, and then the eraser tool. But what it does do is create quite a harsh line. So using the blur tool, I just go over that line where it meets the chin, so it kind of just blurs in. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just change the background colour to white, and just make sure that I'm okay with how everything is looking so far, and it's looking good. Now I'm going to use the same method of creating a shadow, but along the hairline that comes down across the face. The reason why I am doing this is because again it just creates that bit of a 3D effect. So I just select just over, where the hair meets the face, and then using the paintbrush tool again on a low opacity, and I'll just go over a couple of times, and then using the eraser tool 100% but with a soft brush, I go around and just clear, erase just the so that I'll just almost close to the edge of the hairline, so it creates a bit of a shadow, and I have to keep going back to see whether I'm happy with it. So it's always important to keep doing that, and once I've done that, I'll merge down, and then I'm going to work on the other side and do the same thing again using the polygonal select tool. I'm going to go across the hair, and then use the paintbrush. Once I've selected it, use the paintbrush at a low opacity using the black colour, and just go over a couple of times, and then with the eraser tool with the soft brush, just go over and just leaving the enough of that black paint that I've just put on there, just close to the hair, so it creates like a bit of a shadow. I'm happy with that, so I'll merge it down, and this is how it's looking so far. So now I'm thinking I'm going to just again using the blur tool, just blur out those edges just so that it's not a harsh line with a between the hair and the shading that I've just created, and just see how that looks. I'm happy with that. Now I'm just noticing there's a few more touches I want to make around the eye, so again using the dodge and burn tool, just accentuating certain areas. Sometimes I realise that's a bit too much, and then I'll just go back and then just do it a little bit less, or just make a few modifications, and working. Again, you just have to just keep, until you're happy with certain things. You'll find yourself just keep going back to the same areas. I thought I was alone at this, but then I watched one of Cassie Middle's edit videos, and she does the exact same thing. Just continuously keep going back to certain areas, and that's absolutely okay. Okay, so speaking to Venora, she said that her favourite colour is turquoise. So I've selected a few different turquoise backgrounds. And I've put it behind the image, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use field blur, and the filter, go to field blur, and then just increase the blur, and then select OK, and we'll see how it looks. It takes a little while, and that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to use another one because I like to try a few different ones. I chose 3 different backgrounds, so I'm going to do the same thing where I literally place it behind the image, and then I blur it out, and then I can compare the 3 and then choose which one I like the most. Sometimes what I tend to do is walk away from the image, step away from the screen, and then come back and then just get some fresh eyes on it. This is my 3rd background that I'm going to now blur out, and just to see how it looks. Again using the same blurring method, go to filter, then blur gallery, then field blur, and then increase the level of the blur, and then press OK, and there you can see all 3 different ones. But before I decide on which one I'm going to use, I'm going to go to camera raw filter and just add a bit of a blue tint, increase the contrast, and just make a few minor little adjustments so that it can kind of blend in with the blue turquoise background. I'm going to see which one I like the most, and I think the best one is going to be this one. Okay, so now I'm going to select her the image, and then what I want to do is make it blend with the background. So I go to properties, but before I do that I have to make a mask first, and then just mask the edge and then increase the feather. What this does is it just kind of like feathers around the edges, and then you can see like it kind of almost blends in towards the background, which I kind of like. But this one, I think I might have done it a bit too much, so I'm going to do it again, but actually delete. I have to delete the first one, so let me do that and start again. Okay, so create the mask and then go to mask edge and then increase the feather, but I want to be able to see the edges, so let me just move these pop-ups and then just see how it looks, because I don't want to feather out too much. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So I increased the feather and the contrast a little bit, and you can see that it kind of just like makes the edges kind of like fade out a little bit, which I like. I'm happy with how this is looking so far. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is work on further adjustments. Okay, so now I'm going to work on the adjustments. I'm going to increase the brightness and the contrast, and then go to curves, and then using the colour selector I'm going to click around and see which one I kind of like the most. This is a technique which I learned from Cassie Middles, which is pretty cool. I'm going to increase the vibrance. I'm really loving how this is coming out now. Like, I like how the blue's popping out and the colour of the lips as well. Now I'm going to go to the gradient. Again, this is another technique which I learnt, and I chose luminosity. So I go to gradient, black and white, and then luminosity, and then you can see how much the colours now pop out even more, which I think is looking pretty good. So I'm happy with how this is all looking now. So I'm going to merge all those adjustment layers down, and now I'm going to figure out my cropping, decide what I'm going to keep in the image and what I'm not, and I think I'm happy with that. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to do just a few more little adjustments. Again, some of these adjustments I try them and see how they look, and if I'm happy with it I'll keep it. If not, then I just delete it, like that one. Wasn't happy with how that was looking. So now going back to camera raw filter, and then make some adjustments, increase the contrast, the shadows, the highlights, the clarity. I'm liking how this is coming out so far. And then I've gone to filter and sharpen the image, but the thing is, I've just realised by using sharpen the image, I've kind of made parts of the hair look quite thick. So what I'm doing now is using the blur tool to blur out those areas. I could have just simply just undid that sharpen, but I like how it is, like say the eye there, I like that sharpen. So rather than just change, I just decided to just blur out some of the harsher lines on the hair. And there's little things that I notice as I'm going around. So here I saw there was a bit of a colour discrepancy in the skin tone. So using a combination of the patch tool and the clone tool, I was able to fix that right up. Using the dodge and burn tool, just work in some areas and add a bit of noise. And just doing some slight adjustments again, using the patch tool just to make things look a bit more seamless. Some areas, using that sharpen tool just to sharpen a bit too much. I'm happy with how this is all looking. So now, again, this is going super fast. Didn't realise how the speed on this particular part, but now I'm just adding my logo, just doing the final touches, deciding where to put it, and then realising there's a few more sharp edges. And now I'm going to save it. I usually save two versions, one for Flickr, which is going to be a high-res version, and one for Facebook, which is going to be a slightly lower version. The reason being, for whatever reason, whenever I upload to Facebook, it doesn't like large images, and it takes forever. So I tend to make it a bit smaller. I'm just going over a few of those sharp edges around the hair. Okay, so this is the original image that I took of Venora on the green screen, and with no, I think I used the NAM Prim and Skin Wind Light, and this is how I took the image. And after a bit of editing, this is the final edit, and this is the final outcome. So this is all the work that goes into my edits. I obviously remove the green screen background. I work on the hair by adding a bit of volume to it, adding a bit of detail with the dodge and burn tool, create a bit of shading around the hair and underneath the chin to create a bit of a shadow to give it a bit more depth. I worked on the eyes, the nose, the mouth, again just working on areas just to make it a bit more realistic looking. I didn't go into too much detail on exactly the process, what tools I used, because I wanted this video just to be more about, the process that I go through. Everybody has their own processes, it's, I often, do things by trial and error, make a lot of mistakes, and eventually something will pay off, and I'm really happy with how this image has come out. I love how the eyes pop out. I love the contrast with the lips, and I love the how it blends in with the background as well. Thank you so much for watching my video on my edits. If you have any questions on anything specifically on how I did certain things, then feel free to ask in the comments below. If there is a way that that I could do things a lot easier, please do share some tips. I'm always looking to learn. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe to my channel, like, comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Take care.